Welcome out to another edition of the Trading Justice Podcast. Markets breaking out ahead of the Fed. Big Catalyst Day. Mag 7 having a party on the catalyst of its own. We got a lot to talk about, a little bit of Fed preview. Plus, we're going to be joined with Bobby Dragon, a trader at Tackle Trading. Bobby has been with us at Tackle Trading for many years. He's such a pillar in our community. He's such a great trader, and it's the first time he's ever going to be on the podcast. Very excited to have that. We have a great pro community. Bobby's part of it. I'm part of it. Matt's part of it. You can be part of it too. Go to tackletrading.com. Sign up for a 15-day free trial. Be part of this amazing community that we've been building for years. Matt, Fed. We're going to talk Fed. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I was doing better before you said we're going to talk Fed. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Whatever.
No, excited to be here for the pod. Very excited to talk to Bobby on the pod. Very excited to get his story, his trading journey, his trading style, and I hope people can. I feel like we can learn from the journey of others. And especially for those newer traders out there who, have that in the back of your head. They're like, oh, I want to trade, but can I learn how to do this? Can I be successful at this? Can I apply this? Can I be consistent at this? And one of the things in the pod over the next little bit is I want to bring on some of our tackle trading students, great traders, great people, and for our community to learn from. And Bobby Dragon is, like you said, he's a cornerstone in our community. Our community absolutely loves Bobby, and we're excited to have him on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to have those questions that you're going to ask him. Just curious about his personality, his trading style. I mean, I just really, really like Bobby. So I'm very excited for that. Bulls really like this breakout, Matt. And I'm going to get your technical take here in a minute. I want to talk about the Fed first. But it has been a very solid breakout. You wrote about it in the newsletter. We're going to do that, talk about that in about 10 minutes or so. But Matt, we got a Fed meeting where they're going to cut for the first time in a while, right? We've chronicled the labor market data in recent weeks. It's not no bueno. It has not been good. That is basically cemented in one cut. And for a little while there was speculation of maybe a 50 basis point this meeting. I think that's coming next meeting if we have continued labor market data. We'll talk about that. But we're going to get a dot plot. We're going to get Jay Powell in a purple tie. We're going to get a 25 basis point cut. Sounds like an exciting Wednesday to me.
It does sound like an exciting Wednesday there, but when you're looking at the Fed this week, there's one small thing that I think is important for the Fed this week, and I don't find the Fed to be too confusing this week. I think the market's got a very good understanding of what the Fed is going to do here on Wednesday. I don't think there's going to be anything in the policy statement itself that is shocking or really kind of new. It might be new to the policy statement, but it's not new to the conversation we've been having in the last 6 weeks as market participants, as we've been trying to understand the path of policy. And it does look like the Fed is lining up a 0.25 cut. There has been some discussion on the 0.50. I'm pretty sure the inflationary conversation from last week put a nail in that one. I don't feel like we're going to get the 0.5.
No,
But
and I checked Nick Timrose, the Wall Street Whispers,
the whisper.
his X account, maybe 7 or 8 times over the last several days, because last year, before we got a 0.5 cut, he let us know. In fact, we were talking about it on a podcast a year ago. We got a 0.5 cut. Nick Timrose was telegraphing, hey, that's coming. He was silent. He was silent the last few days. So
Because they're not going to cut
because they're not going to cut
0.50.
0.5.
Uh, I think the market's got a pretty good understanding of exactly what's going to transpire on the policy itself. The question that I have going into the Fed that I feel that needs to be answered is one on the dot plot and one on the SEP, and we're not going to know what those are until we get them on Wednesday. But that's the one thing about this meeting this week that is a little bit different than what we were talking about 6 weeks ago. What we were talking about 6 weeks ago was just the policy statement. The Fed meets 8 times a year, and of those 8 times a year, four of them, they released the dot plot and the SEP, which is the summary of economic projections. Where do they feel inflation is going to be over the next 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years? Where do they feel labor is going to be over the next 3 months, 6 months, year? Those are going to be very important, especially where we're at right now with the inflationary saga and the conversation over the health of the labor market. And so I feel like the dot plot and the SCP are going to be a little bit more interesting this time around than what we typically get. And a lot of that is because I don't think anybody in the market is going to be surprised when we get a 0.25 cut on Wednesday.
Literally nobody.
I don't think anybody will be. I think everybody is on that ledge right now, getting that 0.25 cut. So the question for me is going to be, what is the projections out of the SEP? How does that impact the path of policy? Because Mark, you're talking about getting a 0.5 cut next time and another 0.25 cut. Well, that's the question here, in my opinion. The
That is the
question isn't
question.
on Wednesday, it's are we entertaining a cutting cycle or are we just
And
alleviating?
that really is the question, Matt. We wouldn't even lead with a Fed preview if there wasn't a dot plot this cycle, because there wouldn't be anything to talk about. There wouldn't be anything to
No, we're
anticipate.
getting a 0.25 cut. Let's see what the
We would
market responds
mention
on
it as
Wednesday.
we
Like,
were talking about Google's chart. Oh, by the way, the Fed's meeting this week.
yeah,
But
pretty
in a
much.
market that has been fueled in recent weeks on bad news is good news, does that bad news actually translate on the dot plot to 3 cuts, 3.5, or is it 2.5? Right?
Well, and
Because it was two last
that's
time.
that's where the kicker is, Mark, because it goes to the path of policy. And every time we have this conversation, when the path of policy is not solidified, there's that open concern, right? Where, okay, what are we looking down two cuts? Are we looking down three? Are they going to hike? Getting that path of policy solidified is very important. And so I don't feel that's going to come from the policy statement itself. And I honestly don't feel like Jay Powell's going to be transparent and honest about the path of policy in the press conference on Wednesday either. He's got a very difficult job painting the path of policy with everything that is happening in America economically right now without, doing too much on the labor side or too much on the inflationary side. I mean, it's got to be damn difficult, Mark, to paint stagflation, a stagflation environment. And so I don't feel like we're going to get a lot of things solidified from Jay Powell himself at the Fed conference, in the press conference. I don't think we're going to get things solidified out of the path of policy or out of the policy statement itself. And the reason I want to get your take on this, because the reason I feel that is because I feel like there's growing independence at the Fed, unlike anything I've seen in modern history. I feel like because Mark, how many times do you see the central bank have individual members vote against
No,
upcoming
it's a new era.
contract going against the general consensus produced by the vice chair and the chair of the Fed? How many
No, in
times does that
fact,
happen?
Yellen and Powell made it like this, like personal pride to have unanimous consensus votes,
I'd
right?
say Bernanke too.
Yeah,
Like,
and Bernanke too. So we were coming from an era of Fed presidents where unanimous votes was not just what was a worked on goal,
oh
right?
yeah,
Like
because let's face reality, Mark. In the 112 times they've met in the last 10 to 11 years, right? How many times have we seen consensus?
almost all the time,
Like
almost every time.
99% of the
Yeah,
time,
like
like we
almost
got
every
like
time.
one or two, maybe three. Well, Mark, do we really think all voting members of the Fed believe the exact same
No, of
thing when they're
course not.
reading all this macroeconomic data? And do we really believe that, all the political leanings of the Fed, some on the left, some on the right, all have the exact same economic take on exactly the macro environment? Are you kidding me? You and me debate these things all the time. All the time. We don't see eye to eye on exactly what the environment is. And you're trying to tell me that some of the smartest people in the room have just consensus all the time? No, they work for consensus. But that's becoming more difficult, in my opinion. And I'm starting to see a little bit of independence on the Fed. And the reason that's important to me, Mark, is because in the past, I would look at the dot plot and be like, it doesn't matter. The dot plot doesn't matter. It's always wrong because regardless of what these people say on their dot plot regarding the environment in the future, it's really going to go at what the head of the central bank wants to do. They're going to drive consensus. Well, we're starting to see a little bit of that independence,
Yeah, that's an
and
excellent
I'm not
point.
talking about Fed independence from a macro perspective. I'm talking
Now,
about the individual members feeling a little bit more independent. What's your thoughts
yeah,
on
no,
that?
and that's the thing on the dot plot, because you're going to have a couple waves. You're going to have two waves of price action on Wednesday. You're going to have the initial release, which is going to be heavier than normal. Like last time the Fed met, the last meeting, it was very benign, right? Because there wasn't a dot plot. This time you have questions about what is going on. Is this a
This
couple
at the
cuts?
press conference, this member said this in the dot plot. What's your thoughts, Jay Powell? It's not
you
just going
know
to be the two, the
and
voters.
and so you have like
Yeah.
like if you have like only a couple 2 3 members putting in 3 4 cuts the remainder of the year and everybody else
Again, three
putting
to
in
four cuts.
two, you're not getting 3 or 4
Yeah.
cuts. But if you have maybe 6 or 7, right, then all of a sudden, and the
You know where
average is,
the wind's blowing there, brother.
and so we're going to have a good idea what
I think so
the
too.
the path of policy is on the release of the dot plot. Now, let's say it's a negative reaction because the dot plot only prices in 2.5 or 2.25, something.
Let's say they maintain dot plot with two further.
Oh, then you're going to have a significant selling pressure. And I imagine Jay Powell's dovish tone in the presser would kind of talk that down. I would be really shocked if
One of
if
the reasons why the market has been bullish and breaking out and showing momentum for the first time in months is because of the expectation that we're not just going to get two cuts the rest of the year,
yeah.
right? And so I do agree with you that if they don't come in at expectation or with more expectation on the cut side, you could see I don't know if the price action is going to be violent or volatile, but I would certainly be expecting a little bit of a pullback
No,
in that.
I think the 5 minute candle is going to be volatile. That's for sure.
No, the 5 minute candle will just show you
If
what
they only come in with
does.
2 or 2, you're
Yeah.
going to feel like it's a bear
The
market in the
algo
first.
response is going to be violent at first. But Mark, the
But
algo
then I think
response
Jay
is
Powell,
always violent at
but then I
first.
think Jay Powell walks that back and says, how many times are we, the dot,
Oh,
blah,
the
blah, blah,
context around the dot plot and
you
dot plot's
know,
never
you
accurate.
know.
Yeah.
And so I think, this is one of the things that, I know in our pro community, and we'll do this on Sunday Futures Open, and we'll write it about it in the newsletter, and we'll talk about it next week on the podcast, right? This is a fairly significant price action and narrative Fed meeting. 2 waves of action. It's not just a popcorn Fed meeting. It's are we? And this is where I want to get into the
This could be a
technicals.
catalyst meeting.
Yeah, this could be a catalyst meeting, and it could be a catalyst for a lot of good looking charts. We're entering the early part of the week, and last week I think Mag 7 was up 2.5% the last 2 sessions, but your average stock was the other S&P 493 was down 0.7%, right? And so we've seen in a couple of days tremendous price action in some of the Mag 7 stocks, right? In some separate catalysts. We'll talk about them in stock or drop. It's actually been a pretty good catalyst stretch.
And when we say Mag 7, can we just and we're just going to talk about the last couple of days. I think we got to give a lot of credit to number one, Tesla.
Yep.
Tesla broke out,
There.
ran, and you know what? I think you got to give a lot of credit to Elon Musk on that too. Not every day you see the CEO of the company put their money where their mouth is. He bought 1 billion of his own shares, Mark. And so that's talking about insider confidence there. That was a pretty big deal in my opinion. You had Google just be absolutely amazing. It still continues to be amazing. Google's running, Tesla's running, Apple's picking up a little bit. Meta, Microsoft, Meta, and Nvidia are kind of the needs to develop a little bit. And now Microsoft breaking out today.
Yeah,
It was on
no,
our traders report this weekend. Nobody in our community is surprised by this one. We talked about it extensively last week. It's on the traders report, breaking out here today as well. So you're getting a little bit of love from Microsoft here today to start the week as well.
no. And so, you have a backdrop heading into this Fed meeting. Mag 7 charts are going to do great, and Mag 7 is going to run on independent themes, right? But lots of other areas of the market, right? Wednesday is certainly a catalyst day, whether you get breakouts and some of that love spread a
I
little
don't want
bit
to say if
out.
you get breakouts. I want to, because I already think we've gotten the
Yeah,
breakout.
and break out, break
Like
down the
to
general
me, it's
technical.
not, to me, the question isn't, do we get a breakout? We got that breakout. That breakout is alive and well. It got broken out last week. The ultimate question, and I wrote about this in the Tackle Trading newsletter over the weekend as well. And what I wrote about in the newsletter is over the course of the last 2 months, you've been basically consolidating, slight drift up, consolidating, slight drift up, consolidating, but it hasn't been a massive macro head or excuse me, there hasn't been really a momentum environment. And I talked about the market breaking out of its ascending triangle in the newsletter this past weekend, and I called it the beginning point of a new leg. And so I don't see this technically as, can the Fed be a catalyst to break the market out of a slumber? I kind of felt like that was done last week when we got the breakout last Thursday. I feel like, can the market, and this is a positive thing in my estimation, because you're talking about what if we see some snapback volatility? Well, Mark, if we had not broken out last week and we saw that same snapback volatility that you're concerned about, you're coming right back down into support. You're worried about the market violating a very important support level. The market's got a little bit of love to play with here as the market has shown that momentum. You got some room to the downside where the market can maneuver. And so for me, the ultimate question isn't, can the Fed be the catalyst to have the market break out? The ultimate question for me is not even a question. Fed, don't mess this up. That
Well,
that's
for me,
that's that's
well,
how
and I
I
want to
feel
get to the
about it.
price action from the last 2 days because you got Mag 7 up 2.5%. You got the S&P 493 down 7/10. I think the Fed is a catalyst to see if you get participation. I think the narrative, and we're going to talk about this in Stock It or Drop It,
Yes, absolutely. Does the Fed broaden out the
because the
conversation?
Mag 7 have some
Absolutely.
really good narratives they're
Well, and
working with
let's
right
talk
now.
about that really quickly, Mark. If the Fed entertains a cutting cycle, because all markets are breaking out here, okay, the S&P is a little bit better. The Nasdaq showing us some momentum here, especially today. The Russell 2000 broke out last Thursday. Now you're dealing with the snapback to the breakout channel. The Dow Jones broke out last Thursday, snapbacked on Friday, and you gapped up and you ran here a little bit today. All markets broke out last week. The ultimate question I have post Fed is do we broaden this out?
That's the big
Does
question.
does it broaden out? Because when you think about cutting cycles, okay, not just a cut. If the Fed just cuts one time and they're like, we're good, we
Well, the
got
small cap chart's going to get blown up.
that's nothing. That's
Mag
nothing.
7 won't get blown up. The small
No,
cap chart,
Nasdaq won't get blown up. ES won't get blown up. Dow Jones, Russell
they'll
2000,
get blown up.
ARC, like those things. And so to me, the ultimate question is, do we broaden out, and do we broaden out based on the fact that the Fed is entering into a cutting cycle?
Yep.
That I
That's
know there's
really what
people
we're.
on Wall Street that are talking about a cutting cycle. I know we've mentioned a cutting cycle. I know other people are talking about a cutting cycle, but ultimately the Fed has not confirmed that. All we know of the Fed is they're going to cut 0.25 this time. We don't know what next time is, Mark, because they've had two cuts in their dot plot for 9 months.
Yeah,
Nine
it's been a
months. They
minute.
only got two more meetings after
No,
this.
I mean, if you only have 2 or 2.25, how they average, or maybe even 2.5, the market's gonna be disappointed. You're not gonna. I would be really shocked if I see good, healthy technical development in industrials, in materials, in the Dow, in small caps. But on the other hand, if you come in and that dot plus is 3 or higher, those charts, you're gonna have a lot of choice as a
I
bull
think it's going to be
on what you
very
trade.
interesting. I don't see the market. I don't see us entertaining a bearish argument after the Fed.
Yeah, in
You
small caps, I could see it.
okay? Now,
Like in those things, but not on the market
yeah,
itself.
not on the market. The market's,
The
but
tech heavy, no, you're not getting a
so
bearish
to me,
narrative.
it's a matter of breadth.
Yes.
Does this expand to every aspect of the market? And if so, if we do enter a cutting cycle, small and mid caps should get a bid. The aggressive asset classes should get a bid. Those are debt funneled. Those are very debt driven asset classes, such as ARC, for example, the disruptive innovation areas of the market. Regional banks out of the small and mid caps can get a bid. Gold, silver, all of that. And so I think the Fed's
Have you seen
fascinating.
China's buying a gold? Gold's going to get a bid no matter what. China's buying all the gold.
I think
There's
Asia loves gold. Yes.
like China's just saying we're buying it
Asia
all.
loves gold, and China wants to buy gold. We want to buy gold. Everybody wants to buy gold. I've been called a gold bug about 14 different times in the last week and a half, Mark, and all I'm talking about is gold going up. Like, oh, you're a gold bug, though. And I'm like, no, I just know how to read a chart.
Yeah, no, and it's going to be interesting. Yeah, well, and then I'm curious what Bitcoin does here. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I want to get to Bobby.
Yeah.
But I didn't see participation in Bitcoin today. This was a very,
I
very
don't,
narrow day. This was a few
uh,
stocks.
yeah, there's only a handful of stocks that didn't do anything other than a doji here today, bro.
And so
So yeah, the Nasdaq's doing great, but a lot of that was a handful of stocks. I don't think we should take much today. Speaking on a Monday, this pod's going to be released tomorrow on a Tuesday, one day in front of the Fed. Like I don't see this as a negative thing for Bitcoin if it wants to dial in this potential
oh
breakout.
no,
I've
absolutely.
had concern technically with Bitcoin. I've spoken about it many, many, many times at Tackle Trading. Can that get cleaned up? Can Ethereum on their snapback pullback? Can that get cleaned up? I don't think you want these crypto spaces to be running into the Fed. I think you want them to get dialed in going into the Fed. Just to give you a little bit of an understanding what I mean here, I'll go into the ES very quickly, or excuse me, I'll go into the NQ very quickly. I know we want to get to Bobby here. But Mark, when you're looking at the brewing chart that is building on the intraday side of the equation, you can extrapolate this out to the daily chart. When you look for pattern development with inside a growing trend, you want to see pullbacks or consolidation at certain levels. And you look at the Nasdaq, for example, just over the last few days, ever since we've kind of entered into a little bit of a momentum environment here, a little bit of a pullback here, intraday gets gobbled up, sets a higher high. Basis, and this is a 4 hour chart, mind you. So a 4 hour consolidation is like an entire day of consolidation. You look at that, break up, consolidation, break back up, consolidation, break back up. Pattern development is not a negative thing in any capacity. Pattern development is what I anchor on. And so when you're looking at Bitcoin and you're saying, "Oh yeah, Bitcoin's looking a lot better," and I would agree, it is looking a lot better. Dial this in. If this intraday reversal is a thing, dial this in because an intraday reversal isn't going to wipe off the stink of all the volatility of the previous technical movement. And so a little bit of consolidation, in my estimation, here would be very, very healthy going into Fed day. We'll see if we can get it.
Yeah, as a trader, you're going to want to keep on your toes Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There could be a lot of opportunities. Hopefully, that's in more than 8 or 9 stocks, the S&P 500. But I'm curious to see what Bobby Dragon has to say about the market, about his own journey. Really looking forward to that. And so, going to welcome Bobby on the podcast.
Hopefully, this is the first time, but like we talked about, not the last time here. Bobby, you've been a member of the tackle traded community for a few years now. Ever since I want to say 2019, you've been a member of the community, and obviously you're a big part of our community. You're very active in our community. Everybody loves old Bobby D, but the podcast community might not know everything about you. So first and foremost, I want to ask a little get to know you type questions. How'd you get into trading first and foremost?
Yeah, so my trading journey really started back in 2018. Uh, I think I remember the date, it was July 9th, 2018. Well, prior to that, I actually was getting my master's at the time.
What were you getting at?
I got an MBA in finance.
Oh, nice.
So when I was getting my MBA, I came across the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
I'm a little familiar with that one.
I read the book. It sparked my interest. Just questioned a lot about me, a lot about decisions I made when it came to finance, the stuff that I was learning. And, it sparked my interest so much. I kind of went on to the website because, after we read those books, they kind of show you, they have different types of trainings and stuff. I went on just to look around. I wasn't doing anything because at the time, being in college, you don't have that much money. You're balling on a budget, especially.
True.
I was fortunate enough to get, my education paid for at the time, but I was just, scrolling around, and I think, one day I was talking to someone about, the whole book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. They should read it. And, when you go on social media, they have those Target ads, and all of a sudden I read something that said, Robert Kiyosaki was coming to Cleveland. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So like, and they were doing a free course. Now I think it was kind of like a false advertisement at the time, because they were saying Robert.
I know the drill very well. Yes.
But
here's a pitch for you to come to the real training. Yes,
correct. So I signed up for the free, and I actually called one of my buddies who's actually a member of Tackle Trading, Matthew Stouffer.
Oh, I know Matthew well.
And so he, I called him up. He was living in Cleveland at the time. I was like, hey, we should go to this training. So we got in a car, I picked him up. We went to the west side of Cleveland, joined the training. And from there, I was hooked. At the time, I didn't jump in to do the 3-day training and take the steps forward because I was still in college. But Matt Stouffer fortunately did. And he kind of, at the time, he got a coach, which was Keith King, which I know you guys are familiar with.
Is one of my mentors. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then Keith is the one who pitched Stouffer Tackle Trading. Why don't you check out Tackle Trading? Stouffer checked it out, recommended it to me, and from there, the rest is history.
I would say you guys got the best part of that whole thing. Kidding a little bit. Rich Dad Poor Dad brings up a bunch of memories. That book is truly an amazing book. What Robert talked about and it's all mindset. Like, a lot of people they get involved in the debate and the discussion behind, the stories and the principles, but it's really just a mindset book, an investor mindset book about how the left-hand side of the quadrant versus the right-hand side of the quadrant. And the one thing that Robert always kind of taught me and many, many others, but is you got to think like the right side, even if you're not there yet, right? You got to act like the business owner. You got to act like the investor, because if you're going to act like the employee, you're going to continue to be the employee. If you're going to act like the self-employed business owner, you're going to continue to be the self-employed business owner. And those stories, Bobby, always stood out to me so much, because my dad was an entrepreneur his entire life, and he taught us how to be entrepreneurs. But my dad really struggled with one concept, and it really stopped him from being what I would consider a great businessman. I like he had all the tools, the skill, the knowledge, but he struggled with this one principle: nobody can do it better than I can. Right? He would throw his hammer down, and he would go show you how to do it, and he would never. And that's the one thing when I met with Robert, talked to Robert about Rich Dad Poor Dad and all that jazz, was don't be the guy that has to go throw your hammer to go do it yourself. You got to work through those things. You got to fight through those things, because it's really the mindset that's going to hold you back a little bit. I want to get into kind of your trading here, Bobby, and thank you so much for that introduction. When you first started trading, what type of trading did you get interested in? Like, so you had the scalpers, the day traders, the swing traders, the position traders, the investors, you got cash flow, you got directional traders. What was the first style of trading that got you interested?
I think once I first started, with tackle and everything, I think everything was interesting to me. Doing delta, doing cash flow, because when I first started, and I signed up for the pro membership, there were so many options. There were so many different classes to attend, and each class had a different topic. One, coaches show, we would do something delta, and then 2 days later in the cash flow club, we would do something theta. And so I tried to do everything, and I think that that was one of the things that held me back when I first started trading, was I was trying to do everything. Too much. I got overwhelmed. Didn't take the best notes. I was just trying to do everything. If I seen something, I would just do it. And sometimes I would do it in real money, which I don't recommend anyone doing.
Nothing wrong with practicing a little bit.
I thought, sometimes like when I would practice it, I would do good. And then I was like, oh, I'll just go jump right into live. And I think that was probably the worst decision I ever made. But, when I first started out, it was more, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to grasp everything. I wanted to get everything in knowledge of it within a certain time period, which is like 6 months. And that just never happens.
Mm-hmm. So when you were trying to do everything, because I'm willing to bet a lot of other tackle traders have that same philosophy, right? Because they see Coach Frank do something in the coaches show, right? And it's like, oh my God, I really like that directional trade, right? And then they see Coach Gino in the cash flow club, and like, oh, I really like that cheapie, right? And then they see me talking about some aggressive day trade into swing trade, and they're like, oh, I really want to do that. So let me go day trade, swing trade, position trade, throw in some cash flow and some volatility cheapies all at the same time. That's a lot, brother.
It is.
I mean, that's a lot. How did you get to the point where you were like, that's too much. I need to kind of focus a little bit more, right? That diversification versus focus. Warren Buffett says, no, focus, perfect. Because it's hard to be good at everything in the market. Like I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, Bobby, and it's hard. It's hard to stay on top of all the news and all the stocks and all the commodities and all these different trading styles. When did you get to the point where you were like, all right, I gotta focus a little bit more? And what led to that moment?
I would say the fall of 2021 is when I started to kind of hone in on figuring out I need to figure what I'm doing. I actually read a quote from Charlie Munger. I love Charlie Munger, by the way. The wisdom that he says is just, he said in his quote, I don't need to be the smartest person. I just can't afford to be stupid. And so when I read that quote,
of finance, I swear to God, he's so awesome.
And when he said that, I was like, I really took a step back, and I'm like, I need to get coaching. I think at the time in 2021 is when you guys started rolling out coaching, and so I signed up. I think I was probably one of the first 10 to actually get into the coaching program, and I worked with Tyler. And I think I really honed in on what each strategy was through Tyler. We developed a playbook. We went through each playbook or each strategy. I had questions through strategies. I would say I learned a lot through that first coaching session with Tyler, and that's because it was my first coaching session. There's a lot of questions I had, or I should have probably asked. I never, like, now that I'm thinking back, I should have asked Tyler this. But when you're new,
there's some
coaching session
there, especially when you're getting to know your coach, right? You don't have that. I don't even know how to put, you don't have that confidence yet to even like, you're just thinking about, how do I ask this question the right way, right? And what I've always told people is just start talking, just start describing, just start throwing those words out, because as a coach, you've been asked these questions a lot of different ways, right? Everybody has their unique take on things. Everybody's got their unique journey. Everybody processes the information a little bit differently. And so while a student might be, especially when you're new, right? I know you don't have that problem now, but when you're new, you're like, oh, I don't even know how to ask this question the right way. And I don't want to sound stupid to my coach, right?
100%.
Like, there's all these things happening as your coach. And I can just tell you from the coaching perspective, I've coached a lot in my life. And obviously I've worked with Tyler and Tim and everybody else a lot. And I'm just like, guys, just start talking. Just start explaining it. Even if you sound like you're sitting on you're laying down on the couch and you're spilling all your dark secrets to your therapist, that's fine. Do it, because we can decipher, right? But initially, that there's some hesitation there, right?
Absolutely.
And so, how long before, like when you were working with Tyler, how long did it take you before you felt like, all right, now I kind of find my edge here. I know the types of strategies I want to focus on. I have a better overall, business plan, i.e. trading plan. How long did that take you in working with Tyler before you had confidence in those things?
Because me and Tyler worked in the fall. I think, I think our sessions ended maybe in like September or something. It took me about I would say like 3 months after to really grasp everything, jump into a paper trading account and just paper trade. I know a lot of people don't like doing that, but
Do
when
it
I
and take
jump,
it serious. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, I still go in there from time to time and play around with like different strategies and different
Mhm.
ways of,
I,
hedging off
I back
stuff.
test in the think back all the time.
Yeah. And I
All
think
the time.
that really, helped my career kind of skyrocket and
Mhm.
help my portfolio double, where it was and stuff at the time. And I think it was like a few months after working with Tyler.
That makes me happy. I'm not gonna lie. Going from a little bit of confusion, not knowing what we're doing, but a lot of excitement to a few months later being a cutthroat trader, having a trading plan, knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
What was the first strategy where you're like, yep, that's me. I love doing this strategy. I do it all the time. What was that first strategy for you that you're just like, that's something I'm gonna be doing the rest of my life?
The cover call.
Mm,
Learning the cover
good answer,
call
brother.
was something. I know that when I retire, when I get older, no matter what age I'm at, I'm always going to be telling cover calls. I'm always going to be doing something with cover calls and naked puts. And those are the first two strategies I really learned, and really processed with Tyler when we went through our playbook. And it's something that I still do today.
Is that also the first, like if you're talking to like your friends, your family, the people in your life about trading and whatnot, sometimes that can be a little difficult conversations because they're like, well, what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And they're like, you're the coach at that point and they're the new students, right? But
Yeah,
would that be the strategy you tell them to listen, if you master one strategy in the market, would it be the cover call?
I 100% would be just
It would
because
be
I
for me
think
too.
it's for me the way I look at a cover call, it's pretty much a win-win in some aspects. Because I mean, even though if you get called out, you still get the premium plus the appreciation on the stock. And so, anyone who tells me they have hundreds and hundreds of shares of something, I was like, well, why don't you sell cash flow on that?
Yeah, just I see that a lot. Like, oh, I already have these shares. I'm like, well, are you cash flowing on them? And they're like, what do you mean? Like,
Exactly.
you
And
have a real estate property sitting on the market for the last 15 years and you have not rented it out? And they look at me and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, let's talk.
exactly.
Let's
And
talk.
it's crazy because I mean, a lot of my friends and a lot of people that I know, they're very when they hear the word options, it's then they know it's leverage. They kind
Mm.
of shy away from it. They run away from it. And then when you say covered call, they all say, "Well, you're capping yourself." They don't know all the ins and ins of what a cover call actually does and the
So,
benefits of it.
so buying the call option is too risky, but selling the call option is too defensive.
Exactly.
Got to find something here. We got to find
Yeah.
something here.
Yeah.
I honestly, Bobby, I can't say anything too different there. I mean, I grew up as a day and a swing trader. That's kind of what I loved doing. But about 5 years into my career, I was just like, covered calls. I was even one time, Bobby. I was asked a question. This is back when I was director of Rich Dad back in the day, and we were designing a lot of systems. And I was a very aggressive day trader and swing trader, is who I was. And I had a faulty mentality that, listen, people are coming here to learn how to trade. And that's I was young, I was dumb, and it was bad advice because think about how much money we leave on the table by not compounding small gains monthly. Like it just
Absolutely.
it's because the hardest part of compounding is the first few years of compounding
Yeah.
because it's small and you're not seeing retirement, right? You're like,
Yeah.
right. But then over time, it's like, oh, I'm seeing retirement. I'm seeing retirement. And then
Yeah.
when you think about the people in your life and you're like, well, how many of these people could use just the covered call, right? Just you have a retirement account. Learn how to cover that. Learn how to cash flow on that. I certainly agree with that. So you swing trade, you do cash flow strategies. What else? What other strategies? Like, what's your four core strategies? Rank me your favorite strategies in order of your first to your fourth. I'm putting you on the spot here, Bobby. I'm testing you a little bit.
So Obviously the naked put and cover call are my first
Mhm.
my
Combo.
first go-to. I'll combo those. Those are my number one, just for the cash flow. Um, I love doing cheapies a lot
We
for
call them the
Delta.
cheapies. Yeah.
The
Uh,
cheapies, I like doing spread trades. I'm a big option guy.
mhm.
I do love options. And a lot of that's just because you know what your risk is. You get into it, and if it's a spread trade, you know what
Yeah.
you're paying and what you're going to lose.
Here's your
Um,
max risk before you ever even hit that button. Yep.
Correct. I do love like I said, my spread trades. I do a lot of cash flow spread trades as well, like the bull put, the verticals. But then I would say my fourth. I mean, it's not really my fourth, but I do love doing a lot of the butterflies, Debbie
Mhm.
Cons, and a
So
lot
you
of those strategies.
primarily work within the options market, I would say.
That is my go-to right now.
And that's kind of the focal point right now. Do you have interest in learning like futures and stuff like that? Or is like, don't get me wrong, like just mastering options itself is good enough for 99.999% of traders.
Yeah,
But there's other traders who like to do some of the other things, right?
yeah.
Like the day trading in the futures arena, for example, stuff like that. Or are you just satisfied with the options arena?
I do want to get into more day trading and futures, after watching a lot of your coaches shows and your day trade. I
Mhm.
still go back to your day trading classes when you first started the day trading course, and I
Mhm.
watch because you explain a lot about the day trading system. I want to get to those, but I learned my lesson when I first started trading. If I try to do too much, then
Take your time, brother. Take
I
your
will
time.
derail myself. And
I
I was
think what
telling
you,
him,
oh, finish your thought, Bobby.
yeah, I was just saying, I was telling a member of the community because they were asking me questions, and I was just saying, try to focus. I try to focus on, what's at hand at first, and then I eventually venture off into futures, start learning futures, and then
Get
start learning day
something
trading.
working. Get something working for you efficiently.
Correct.
And then once you get that efficiently and you don't have to spend all the time in thinking about, okay, what's this rule and what's that rule, and it's automatic to you, right? You're doing a
Yeah.
cheap, you know exactly what you're doing. You're doing a cover call, you know exactly what you're doing. You're doing a naked put, you don't have to think about the strike price or where to sell or what support, like you just go do it, right? When you get to the point where you're effective and you're efficient there, and you feel like you don't have to think before
Yeah.
you act,
Hmm.
then you could say, let me take on something else. A
Yeah.
lot of times when you deal with a coach, a tackler, you deal with a mentor, you deal with somebody who has been around the market for a while, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, but they do this, this, and this. And it's like, yeah, but it took me 5 years to do this, and that before I ever even took on that next thing. I
Yep.
love trading futures now. I love trading futures. It's one of my go-tos. There's no doubt about that. But I didn't touch a futures contract in the first 5, 6 years
Yeah.
of when I was learning.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like I want to focus on swing trading options. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become an expert in the options arena. And then as I learned more and as things changed, I was like, okay, maybe I want to add that and I want to add that. And that's the beautiful thing though about being a part of tackle trading, in my opinion, is when you're ready, here it is, right?
Exactly.
Let's go do it
Absolutely.
again.
For sure.
Bobby, I got a couple other questions for you. And if you don't mind, would love to have you stay for the next segment as well. We'll talk a little
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
some stocks here in just a second. Got a couple questions. What is one thing at tackle trading? Because I know you attend a lot of everything in tackle trading. You kind of one of our, quite frankly, you're one of our favorites, no doubt about that. But what is one thing we do at tackle trading that you would tell as somebody thinking about becoming a part of tackle trading or searching for a community like tackle trading? Because there's a lot of people out there, Bobby, that are searching for a community to call home, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
there's a billion different programs out there, right?
There is.
What is one thing at Tackle you would say, do this, focus on this, and then move on from there? What's that one thing at Tackle you would recommend to somebody new to start new?
Obviously, join the class that you're going to be doing tonight.
Yeah, that's a good answer too.
If someone came up to me and asked me what I would do, first thing I would tell them to do is join Discord.
Mm-hmm.
And once they join Discord, I would tell them to ask as many questions as possible and to reach out to you guys, because you guys, I will say, and I think I was talking to Matt Stouffer about this before. Like, you guys don't have to do this. I mean, you guys, the way that you, Mark, and everyone and all the coaches in this community, you guys give back so much, and you guys can do your own thing for a living. You don't have to do tackle trading, but you do, and you guys are committed to it. And so,
We don't have to hang out in Discord every day, and no,
correct. And
but
so,
I'll tell you, Bob, we do love it.
exactly. And so, I learned, when I first joined Discord, I never really said much. I was always in the background, just kind of hanging out. But as, I told myself one day, I'm going to ask more questions. I'm going to be more active. I'm going to share more charts, because that's the only way I'm going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell people to be more active in Discord, but also, do, if they're going to go on the website and do anything, is start that 7-step guide.
Yeah.
And get them started, and then maybe do the step system. Because another thing too, just, I know we're crunched on time here, but when as much as Tyler got me in the right path with trading, the guy who really helped me the most, I would say, is Frank. I know me and Frank fight a lot in Discord, but
off topic, Bobby.
Yeah, he really took my hand in a lot of the step system and swing trading aspect, reading a chart, analysis, intraday analysis and stuff. And that, I would say, turned me into who I am today. And I can't thank him enough for that. So
honestly, I got to tell people a lot of tackle. I'm like, no, Bobby and Frank are like blood brothers. You guys, like you don't take the off topic stuff. Leave it in the off topic. I've seen you and Frank's relationship from that, not just the step channel, talking to Frank quite a bit about it. I'm going to tell you right now, he feels the same, Bobby. Like,
yeah,
he fully appreciates those conversations the same way you do. But isn't that what being a part of a community is all about? Is
absolutely
finding people that you have that there's a likeness there, that there's some commonality there, that there's some care there, that that it's not just about this trade idea or that trade idea, but you take Coach Frank, for example, and you.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that Coach Frank has a genuine care for you as a human being. Outside of every other conversation, outside of the trades, outside of the investing, outside of the off-topic stuff, I know he has a genuine care for who you are as a human, where you're at in your journey, and where you're going. And Frank is just one of the coaches, but I feel like that's representative of every coach at Tackle.
Absolutely. I
Because
agree.
you're not part of tackle trading if you're not like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty simple to me. And so I just knowing Frank the way I do, I'll tell you, I do know he has that same philosophy. Some of my closest friends I have met through this journey as trading, because the people you meet are, again, you have things in common. You have like goals, and you have a community and a team that's willing to help you obtain those goals, and then talk about the next one. Because, Bobby, we all everybody here wants to achieve one thing, two things, three things, but you're going to achieve them. What's next? What's next? What's downstream? What's that next beautiful, great thing? That's what it's really, really cool to be a part of that. And it's really, really cool to actually hear it from you as well, Bobby. Bobby, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I wanted to do a little bit of a get to know you session a little bit,
Yeah.
because I would love to bring you on in future editions of the pod as well. And Bobby, just thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for, quite frankly, thank you for being the best part of this community, because we love the pros of our community. Talk about you guys all the time. Always positive, mind you.
Yeah. I hope.
Positive. Oh no, it is. It is. It is. It is for certain. Bobby, thank you so much for coming on. You'll stick with us for the last segment, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Coach Mark, let's talk some stock it or drop it.
All right, let's do some stock it or drop it. Listen, I had so many interesting ticker symbols. I had to choose the best of the best, because just great news stories. Let's start with Tesla. Going to be a couple Mag 7 and Mag 7 Lite on this list. Elon bought $1 billion worth of stock. Matt, you talked about this earlier in the podcast. Worth noting again, he did that at various prices Friday, according to a Monday filing with the SEC. Stock it or drop it. And Bobby, I know you watched the podcast, but stock it or drop it is really loose. I don't care if it's a swing trading, an investing, a credit. It's whatever you want. Stock it if you like it. Drop it if you don't. Stock it or drop it, Tesla.
Which makes it honestly difficult to actually stock or to drop it since you can stock anything on any time frame. But it's dealer's choice. I'll let
I don't know.
Bobby
You're
go
gonna
first.
start. You're gonna stock Starbucks on any time frame. I don't know about that.
No, I'm not even going to stock one of their drinks. No, no, I'm not. Actually, as a bear, maybe. Bobby, stock it or drop it, Tesla. What's your thoughts?
You know, I'm actually going to stock it just because there's so many different things you can do on this one.
Mhm.
Like you said, you can go to different time frames and play this one. Just looking at this candle here, I'm sure you can go to the hourly and you can probably got a nice little pullback. Could probably pull something off here. So yeah, right there.
Beautiful pullback, actually.
So I mean, I'm going to stock it just because I know there's always something you can do on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna stock it as well. Tesla, not Tesla, but I thought Tesla had some good news coming into the weekend. On Friday last week, Thursday and Friday. You broke out on Thursday. Friday had the continuation, but they had some good news on their legacy vehicle side of their business, and it wasn't just hope and hoopla. It was actually some pretty good numbers for the first time in I would say this year. Like it's
Yeah,
been
it's,
a disastrous fundamental year for old Elon. But then you have that good news leads to the breakout here. And then you have Elon saying, you know what? I got an $8.5 trillion company to build here so I can get $1 trillion pay package. And I'm like, yes. Like he buys $1 billion of his own shares after he gets his entire pay incentive tied to Tesla shares. And I'm like, you have the one of the CEOs in America, who's one of the visionary CEOs in America, who is all in on their company. Like, is there any argument here that Elon's all in on Tesla?
nah, it's a huge sentiment boost.
Yeah, I think it's a huge sentiment boost. I wouldn't be chasing, Bobby's correct. Tesla's one of those stocks that you can find your edge on anything. But if you're looking at it through the prototypical lens of swing trading, and Bobby's right, I am going to be talking about this later on today in Master Trader. But you just want to get that dialed in. You would want to get a secondary pattern dialed in more than anything. If the momentum's real on the break, wait and you miss it, just wait on the retracement. Just be patient here, allow it to set up because if the first move's real, you're going to get a good secondary move here too. So I think patience plays, but I'm going to stock it as well.
All right, next one. Let us go Oracle. Might be a Mag 7 if those numbers from their earnings report are real. My goodness gracious. One of those
When it's real, if OpenAI goes bankrupt.
jaw dropping numbers coming out of Oracle's earnings report kind of set the stage for kind of the software tech move, in my opinion, on that we've been seeing the last couple days. But I think 1,529% increase in revenue from Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. That's going to catch your attention. Their 2030 projection is going to catch your attention. What I want to know is, did it catch your attention enough to stock it or drop it, Oracle?
Bobby, you go first.
I'm going to say stock it. I mean, as Mark just said, I mean, there's a story behind this. I mean, just look at this chart. I think it has another leg higher, just with everything going on with the stock, the earnings report, everything. Like I said, I'm going to stock it here.
Yeah, I don't think this one's too complicated. Oracle had the secondary news off their earnings report because you got EPS revenue forward-looking guidance. None of those were knockout. They really weren't. They had a miss on EPS, they had a miss on revenue, and guidance was kind of in the mid. It's that secondary news of $420 billion of revenue coming down the road, right? It's that $300 billion in OpenAI contract that's not going anywhere. It's the hyperscalers unite type thing. Like this was amazing news coming out of Oracle, and you got to stock it. Like I'm going to be doing the revision to the AI Gold Rush watch list here next month. So we're in mid-September. I'm going to be doing I'll do a webinar in mid-October about the next edition of the AI Gold Rush watch list. but Oracle is going to be either a tier 2 or tier 3 company. Like they're right up there, and they have not been part of the conversation, despite being a really good recovery, despite kind of moving along there, all-time highs, all-time highs, all-time highs. They haven't really quietly. I mean, how many times have we talked about Oracle
I mean, look at the
in the
price action in
backdrop of the
2024,
AI
right?
conversation from
Yeah.
23 on? Like it hasn't been a big part of that conversation. But that's what happens when you get a $300 billion contract from OpenAI. All of a sudden, they're smacking in the face. They're part of that conversation. I think it was legit. I think the secondary setup is legit as well. Love that 9 EMA to catch up, though.
All right.
We're both
Next one.
stock. You're getting stockings everywhere. Come on, let's go.
Next one is Baidu. Now, we're not actually going to talk about Baidu, although, we could talk about Chinese stocks. That would be an interesting enough story. But I don't know the ticker symbol of the next stock it or drop it, because I don't know what company is going to be purchasing TikTok, which Bessent and President Trump said is deals coming on Friday. Blindly stock it or drop it, and you don't get to choose the price of the company that buys TikTok. Blind stock it or drop it. Bobby.
This is a tough one.
I don't know about this one.
I don't know either. I mean, I know in the past, with Chinese stocks, it's been, as you can see here, all the gaps. It's just that you make it or break it here. I'm probably just going to drop it just because it might not be Baidu. So,
it's going to be a U.S. company. It's going to be a U.S. company.
Most likely. Well, you don't know that. And you also don't know how much the U.S. government's going to get a stake in that either. So there's too many open questions here for me. And I no.
Cowards, both of you. That is
Sorry.
an easy use. You buy that.
Deal.
Whoever buys TikTok.
Are you kidding me? You would buy blindly the company that's buying TikTok, not knowing how much premium they're paying, not knowing how much ownership that the United States government gets their little greedy hands on. You would be buying blindly that?
Oh, listen, I assume the government's going to get a piece of it because we don't live in capitalism anymore. But the correct answer was stock it. You're both cowards.
I guess we were wrong, Bobby.
Let me give you a couple different change of pace ones to close out. Kroger, changing pace, grocery store. Kroger, popular cash flow stock amongst a lot of people. Earnings came in, topping a little bit of expectations. Down near the 200-day moving average, though. Companies like Kroger attract some attention from the investing class of the 200. Stock it or drop it, Kroger. Bobby.
So here, I'm going to actually stock it just because I think this was a tackle 25.
Yes.
I think the story behind this, where it's at on this chart here, if we can get over that 50 moving average, that's something that's definitely going to be actionable and something that will be on my radar for a long-term investment, since they definitely have some good fundamentals. I'm going to stock it.
Yeah, I'll stock it for cover call purposes only. Like that's what Kroger's on the list for, is cover call purposes only. The technical edge looks extremely similar to that of consumer staples in general. Just pretty much just range bound neutrality. Obviously, we're seeing a little bit of a violation on staples to begin the week, but I'll stock it for cover call purposes.
You can't have Tesla go up and have not something go down.
Well, that's true. And usually if something like Tesla goes up as fast as it is right now,
usually
food-based companies have a tendency to go down a little bit. But I think you stock it for cover call purposes only. If you're looking for cash flow and you're looking for a stock within the basic material space, cheap grocery store, Kroger's one of the better ones in its industry and its sector for that specific purpose. If you're looking just for cash flow, there's better stocks to do just cash flow on, but I'll have to say stock it. If you're looking for a consumer staples food-based company, it's a good cover call.
All right, final one. FedEx has earnings this week, but it's not just FedEx. You can only stock one. You could drop both if you want. It is fascinated Coach Gino at Tackle Trading that DoorDash has a bigger market cap than FedEx. Talked about it in the lounge. It's just fascinating. He's like, DoorDash only delivers a little bit, FedEx delivers a lot, and DoorDash. I mean, it's just fascinated him. So FedEx has earnings this week, Thursday after the bell. But
DoorDash has like 2 employees and then pays everybody through
so
independent contract work.
Bobby, you can only stock one. You can drop both if you want,
Okay.
but you can only stock one, DoorDash or FedEx.
I'm going to store Dash. I think for sure. I mean, the setup is nice. It's a lot better than I think FedEx. I'm going to stock definitely DoorDash for sure.
And Bobby's, Bobby's take on Gino skepticism is like, trust the trend, bro.
Me and Geno's have plenty of conversations about FedEx and Home Depot and all those staples. So I know where his head's at there.
Gino loves talking about those companies. He does love talking about those companies, and he doesn't understand why a company like DoorDash would ever be into the same conversation as a company like a Home Depot. DoorDash has 2 employees, pays everybody through contract work, and UPS has a massive, massive downstream. If I had to stock one, I'd stock technically the conversation on DoorDash. I agree with Bobby. It's a far more infinitely better technical conversation on Dash than it is on FedEx. FedEx just never gets going, like ever, ever. Like it gets if you look at the pattern on FedEx, the only higher highs it's created is earnings release days. That's all you get. And if that's all you get here, like there's a lot of better places to be, in my opinion. So FedEx, it's a no for me. I'll drop FedEx and I'll stock DoorDash on the technical setup. I wouldn't stock either one long term, by the way.
Yeah. Well, listen, Bobby, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I'll let Matt say goodbye to you in a proper format and send us out, brother.
Well, Bobby, loved having you on the podcast, brother. Why don't you give us some final thoughts?
No, I just, I want to thank you guys again for allowing me to come on here, tell my story. I'm hoping, this could, spark questions and, inspire someone to get into trading, someone to ask more questions. And, I'm hoping just to see more, people participating and everyone coming together as a community. You guys done a great job with tactical trading, and I can't thank you guys enough for everything you guys done for me. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without you guys, to be honest with you. And I just, thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, Bobby. And it truly has been a pleasure watching your journey, Bobby. It truly has been inspiring to see you go from where you were to now being a voice in our community, being somebody that other traders go to get help, to get answers, to get to point in the right direction. And that's quite frankly why we started tackle trading in the first place, is to spread that good word of investing and trading and control to others out there, and to see you do what you have done and then take it a step further has been just everything that I had hoped tackle trading would be when we first sat down and talked about what this company was going to be 11 years ago. And so it's believe me, my friend, the pleasure is on my side of the equation. You've done an absolutely amazing job. You've done amazing work so far. And you know what the coolest part about that whole thing is, Bobby? And you know the coolest part about your story is you're just getting started. You're just beginning this. And to see where you're at right now, to see and to know, and this is the thing, as somebody who's been on that journey, to know where you're going is so exciting. It's so exciting. And like everybody at Tackle, like it's learn, trade, connect, succeed. The last part of that is success. And it takes all three of those aspects: setting your butt in the chair and going through the process of learning, applying what you learn, right? Knowledge without application is useless energy, right? You have to apply it. But the third point is so important to the path of success, and that is to communicate with others, get help from others, be a part of a community, and that's what tackle trading is. That like-minded community of people from different backgrounds,
Yeah.
different demos. Like the demographics at tackle training, it would shock you how many different demographics we have,
Yeah.
because it's not a matter of one or the other. It's a matter of everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's a matter of the
Yeah,
collective.
absolutely.
And you've just been watching you grow and watching your story and being a part of that, Bobby. Believe me, the pleasure is on our side of the equation. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I look forward to round two on the
Sounds good.
podcast coming to
Yeah,
a theater
absolutely.
new year. If
Yeah.
you guys are looking for an amazing community to call home, call Tackle Trading Home. You can hit the link in the description below and get a free trial of Tackle Trading and test out all those goodies that we've talked about here today, like the newsletter, the Traders Report, the Coaches Show, the Cash Flow Club, the Traders Lounges, and yes, the class I'm going to be talking about later on tonight. Each month, we teach Master Trader, which is a 2-day course that we do for all of our pro members. And so we're teaching Master Trader this week. And if you can't make it, because by the time you listen to the podcast, I'll be done teaching Master Trader. Don't fret. We'll do it again next month as well. Sign up for a free trial of Tackle Trading right now and get prepared for Master Trader next month. And with that said, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful, and blessed rest of your day.